Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another great episode of T3PO Live. I am your host, Mr. VashSky, right here, and with me, well, is an amazing panel filled with both friends and perhaps experts. I know one expert, Epic Universe expert. I call him an expert because, well, it's one of the only ones that have actually visited the park. But I'm so grateful to have him on, and hopefully we'll be joined by even more people who have an expertise, not just Epic Universe, but in the industry at large, especially the resort, hotel, lodging industry, travel agent maybe. Good stuff indeed. But let's go ahead and get some of our panelists on the stage right now. From Germany, Erika from Erika and Raf. Thank you so much for joining us today or tonight, where you are right now. Thank you so much for that. Awesome stuff.
Thanks for having me. Always a privilege.
Absolutely. Oh, so good. LW Ghost. Hello there, Lou.
Wie geht's? Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome, all that stuff, yeah? I almost fell out of my upper perch when I saw Erika, but yeah, well, here we go again, gang.
Here we go again, indeed. And, well, somebody who, well, may have felt like they traveled to Germany and back, the one, the only, Nolan Thunder. Hey, I know you've been traveling all over the place the last couple of months, just like me, but much farther, indeed. Hello there. How are you today, sir?
I am finally rested and prepared and ready for the most epic show this side of YouTube. How's everyone doing?
I have to reveal a secret about Nolan. You heard it here first.
Please?
He's now bi-coastal.
Bi-coastal.
I trusted you with that info, Lou. I trusted you.
coming out
the
of the travel closet. Well, you know, it's out there. It's out in the open. Nolan, thank you so much for coming in, because we're going to be relying on you for, I know, a good segment that we have coming up right here. And to start things off, I want to start things off actually not at Epic, but at Disney, because this is super, super fascinating right here. That Park Place, Memorial Day crowds at Magic Kingdom disappear in 2025 as Universal Studios seems to win big over Disney World. I would say so, and it looks like even that momentum is to change here. Before we get to that, though, May 26, 2025, from WWE Pro, he outlines in this article, I think beautifully too, and we'll go ahead and have Marvin's video up on the screen as well, just to give you an idea of just how lacking the crowds actually were here. Now, I heard from Josh Giamaro, maybe even Hugh Johnston, that bookings were solid. Attendance was going to be up. Epic's going to bring with it the crowds. And
we might mention, this isn't just a weekend. This is a holiday weekend when people don't have school and jobs to keep them from going and having fun.
Yes. So where's that rising tide, Josh? Where are the crowds at? I thought Magic Kingdom was going to be okay. Well, I don't know. I don't really know where the crowds are. They're certainly not here. And yes, Epic Universe was capping attendance. I think that's demonstrable at this point. That's for sure. But I thought Magic Kingdom, people were going to go to it anyway. Maybe even locals. Hey, you know what? I can't get into Epic Universe. Let's go ahead and go into Magic Kingdom instead. When in fact we're seeing quite the opposite here. Before I continue on with this, do any of you have an idea of maybe what happened in this instance when it comes to Memorial Day weekend, outside of maybe Epic Universe? Maybe you can include that in your commentary as well.
Sure. It's not just Epic. I keep saying that to people and they don't hear me. It's not just Epic. Die-hard Disney, only Disney, always Disney people have not only not been to Epic, like everybody hasn't been, except a certain bi-coastal fellow there below me, but they haven't been to islands. They haven't been to the studios. They haven't been to Volcano Bay. And the fact that Universal so cleverly put together these packages where you had 3 or 4 parks, but only one day at the new one, means they're being exposed to a whole ecosystem of entertainment that they sort of knew it was up there down the road, but when they were captives, thanks to Magical Express, which Disney threw away, and when they were captives, thanks to meal plans, which Disney semi threw away, and when they were not encountering the hard truth that the color go away green means something Disney never intended it to mean, which is go away and don't come back till we have something worth the price we're paying, which, by the way, if you've seen the announcements, they have already announced price increases in 2026. So, things have consequences. And as I've said also, this is going to have a big effect on DVC. Because if the whole sales pitch for DVC was, well, you go every year anyway, why don't you get an apartment with a kitchen and some equity? And oh boy, and so what if we can raise the maintenance fees however much we want all the time? And so what if, well, maybe if I'm not going every year, even if I'm still going to Disney, if I'm going 2 or 3 years apart because it's expensive and I have a life to live and I want to try the other guys, suddenly that whole rationale disappears. And you become just one more timeshare in a state full of them.
Erika, do you think that Lou is right? Do you think this is an effect outside of Epic, and perhaps maybe people aren't going for other reasons? Do you think locals have gotten their full of Magic Kingdom? Families might have. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's some of it, and we're still coming out of a not so great economy, and that's just a objective factor. And Epic, the tickets seem to be controlled for entrance and for opening day, and for Magic Kingdom, I don't know. Disney's just declining so much. Maybe there's a lot of people out there just giving up, but it could be cost. It's just gotten so expensive anywhere you go.
Yeah. The price matters.
Indeed.
For what you get.
Mm-hmm.
People will pay through the nose if they're getting a spectacular experience. But if you say, hey, we're going to charge you more and give you less, pretty soon people figure that out. Figure that out.
Wizard, are you there? Let me see if this all works here.
Now that he's entered into nuptial bliss, should we call him Mr. Wizard?
Yeah.
As in Mr. and Mrs. Wizard?
I think we actually shall. Wizard, are you there, sir? Let me see. Oh, I have some audio issues on our end. I think
Wait a minute. Isn't he sort of technically still on his honeymoon? Why should he come here?
That's a fair point, Lou. That's a fair point.
You know, it's like, hey, Wizard, you just found the girl of your dreams and got married and had a wonderful, happy time. What are you going to do next? I'm going to go on the TPPPPPP. I don't think so. Thanks a lot, but I'll see you next
Wizard,
week.
I got a question for you. How do you plan to spend your honeymoon with your girl? T3PO live, baby.
Yeah, right.
No thanks.
Let me see here. Let me see if I can actually call him back in the background right here, and see if
whoever shot this B-roll did cheat a little in the sense that Hall of Presidents is shut down, so naturally there's nobody standing outside of it.
Well,
but imagine how much better it'll be when you have the roar of dirt bikes right across the way. That puts you in that colonial spirit, doesn't it?
Indeed. All right, let's see it. Wizard, are you there? Wizard, you're on T3PO Live. Come on, Wizard. Come on.
Help me, Obi-Wan Wizard. You're our only hope. Or
you can do it.
Wizard, can you hear us? Stay away from the light.
I think it's all working just fine. I'm checking the settings again. Everything's working fine. At least it should be. I'll go ahead and call him back on just to make sure that him calling in wasn't the issue. Nolan, your thoughts on this particular story related to Magic Kingdom? I know you were there, so maybe you can speak on this eloquently.
Yeah, so I can't speak for necessarily Memorial Day itself because that was the day I was on my way back. But as for the Sunday I was there, we actually attempted the 4-park challenge. And for those who don't know, it's you try to go to Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Magic Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios, do at least 2 attractions and get a picture next to an iconic landmark there. We chose Figment for Epcot, by the way, and that was pretty dope. So I got to experience a little bit of each park on that Sunday that preceded the holiday. And I will say Magic Kingdom, when I went there, was, as per usual, stroller heaven. There were a lot of people, and it was rather busy in my experience there. And also the crowds coming from the event that night after the fireworks show were massive as per usual. However, we did a little bit of resort hopping one of the days prior following our epic trip. And it seemed rather coincidental that every day that involved the 3-day Universal booking time period around the opening event of Epic Universe, coincidentally, Disney didn't seem to have a lot of people. I was outside of the resorts, or outside of the parks, mind you. I was seeing the resorts and the parking lots, but like taking the monorail and driving by the Epcot parking lot, it just seemed drastically lower than what we were expecting. Now, granted, the Sunday, I do think there was a pretty decent crowds, and it did get a little murky when we went to Epcot because there was actually a downpour of rain that happened, so that flooded out the crowds pretty well. So Epcot was pretty dead by the time we got out of there, which honestly, in my opinion, kind of made it nice because I like taking in the views of, say, the Hall of Presidents and not just looking at 200 people in front of it. I like to enjoy my scenery here, but I do think the audience levels have definitely been impacted by Epic. I think Sunday was kind of a day on its own where you were going to get big crowds at Disney either way. But at the end of the day, I think these crowds mostly come down to not just Epic, but dinero. It's dinero. People don't have the kind of monies to have these huge trips to Disney and do a multiple day stay when money's just so tight as it is. And usually, with Memorial, they usually want to see some close family. And if you can't bring grandma and grandpa along, some family's going to opt out for it. Or even the bigger option is Epic Universe is all over the place. I've constantly been seeing it advertised before even theatrical films. So why would you take a vacation this weekend to just go to Disney when you can wait for an opportunity for Epic tickets to show up, and then you can just book a trip there and hit a good 3 parks Universal? I just think it makes more sense than doing Disney at this point when, in reality, this summer, there's going to be a lot of things walled up, and there's not going to be a lot to do.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very appropriate and very, very accurate. Wizard, I believe you are on now. Do you when looking at the Magic Kingdom attendance over the Memorial Day weekend, it was very, very low. Do you think this is an industry trend? Do you think it's a trend with theme parks, both regional and destination? Or do you think it's just limited to Disney at this current point? What do you think?
Well, one, can you hear me?
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Okay. And then two, I think for the Memorial Day, I think it is, at least for, I guess, just the Magic Kingdom version or Disney World version, because if you looked at the wait times over, even here at Universal Studios Hollywood, everything was like an hour or more. So it was pretty busy the last couple of days. I wasn't there, but I actually looked at the app. And if you look at Epic Universe, we're still in that period where everyone's getting that multi-day ticket vacation package. So, you know, we don't have like the full, single day tickets come out in June, and even Epic Universe today is much busier than it was any other day as schools are let out and such. So I think what everyone else here said is right. Disney World is expensive, and there are things closing. There's things nothing really is new there, and you have a whole new theme park down the street. So where do you want to spend your money? And there's much more value in like a Universal hotel versus a Disney hotel and stuff like that. So I think the Memorial Day slump is really like a Disney-centric thing. It may hit all the parks, but I think it really will hit Disney the hardest because there's really nothing new to offer, or there's something under construction.
Yeah, and speaking of new to offer, this is a great transitioning point for this segment of the story right here, because you remember that Disney actually debuted this like series of character meet and greets, I guess. Animation Courtyard is about to get even more animated for Cool Kids Summer, as you'll be able to meet Clarabelle Cow, dance, and with the whole Disney Junior crew, including Roadster Racer Mickey, I guess. And then we have the Goofy Core at Epcot's Communicore. I believe, Nolan, you were referring to Communicore earlier with me on the phone, and you were like, hey, it's closed. Well, it was closed for this. You can see some video of that right here from DSNY, which is interesting. And the big, villain show, I believe, just had its debut. That was actually well attended. But the other thing surrounding this whole thing is that Disney Starlight's nighttime parade that was supposed to make its debut in the summer, well, that actually hasn't been added to the schedule. So all of these other things outside the villain show are relatively minor, but this show in particular, this is really, really interesting right here. This is some commentary from Blog Mickey themselves. When will Disney Starlight make its debut? I think it's fair to say that the Disney Starlight Dream Night Nighttime Parade debut has not gone according to plan for Walt Disney World. Ideally, the new Magic Kingdom Nighttime Parade would have been ready to go tonight as Disney World kicks off this summer season. Instead, not only will it not debut tonight, but we're starting summer without an announced debut date. Back in April, they said that they would get a debut date early June. Now, not so sure. They're thinking that there's something legitimately wrong behind the scenes that is keeping them from not even debuting this, but even just debuting the date itself. I mean, this is very, very interesting because Walt Disney World needs some relief from Epic in some form or fashion, and it's not coming here.
I wonder if they're afraid to mention the date for fear people will wait for it and not come now.
That's interesting. So you're thinking maybe get a couple of dress rehearsals, as the terminology was used for.
I don't know, but all I'm saying is if people are not going because there's nothing new and it's expensive, if you tell them, yeah, but as of X and X of June, it will be, they say, great, I'll come then, not now. Especially for locals who have maybe even APs. Why bother until there's something new?
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point right here. I mean, I know some people have been really looking forward towards this parade only because it's a new nighttime parade. We don't get those very, very often, if at all. Nowadays, I think one average maybe 20 years. It's that slim, folks. And so this not being ready for summer, I think is a big miss, obviously, and I think Disney is not happy with that. We also have, another thing happening over the course of the summer and fall It's this right here. Now, Lou actually referenced this yesterday on the Pro Show. I want to go ahead and give it its due here. Apparently, they are still moving forward with this Rivers of America project. Some people are hopeful that something might happen to upend this project. And hey, I would be the most joyous one out of the bunch to hear that this wasn't moving forward. But unfortunately, I mean, they're doing even more massive land clearing for the laydown yards and everything else outside of Magic Kingdom to prepare for this project right here. The crowds that we see with the Magic Kingdom Memorial Day weekend, do you think that these are the crowds that we can expect to see if they go forward with this Rivers of America project? I'll hand it off to the panel.
Well, I like being a sidewalk superintendent and watching construction as much as the next guy. But if that's the best attraction that's new in the park, I don't know if I'd pay $150 to do it.
That's fair.
Why would you pay so much money for construction? We can just go on I-70 and watch the same thing. Like, so much. I still can't believe that the Muppets is being shut down as soon as it is, because, you know, you can kind of get a last hurrah off some of these events. And then by the time you get to the later half of the year, you know, you're going to have Not So Scary Halloween Party. You're going to have all the Christmas and New Year's events happening at Disney, stuff that you can take away from these key areas and have, you know, big crowds going to these big events. But right now, when people are going there, say for a Memorial Day weekend, and if they're going to be disappointed when they find out, oh, my favorite ride's going to be out in a few weeks, I'm glad I came now as opposed to then. If we're seeing this much of an issue when it comes to attendance now, what's going to happen when we're in the summer and Rivers of America's walled off, Muppet Vision's closed? Like, in this stuff, like, it's easy enough to think about, you know, from our comfortable homes about, hey, like, I can't ride this if I go there. Think about the people who are on the ground, on foot, in the parks. That is an ugly eyesore when you just see walls all over your beautiful park. It ruins photo opportunities that you want to take home to your loved ones and then show them that, hey, you should come with me next time I go. It's not good for the guest experience. I'm sure we're going to talk more about guest satisfaction more in crowds when we get to, you know, the headline story. But I think that Disney is being very negligent of what the guest tolerance is when it comes to the beauty of the park and the experience of the park when it comes to rides that just need to simply be open to get the full-on Disney experience.
Well, plus is the snowball effect. Every one of these scant people that we see goes home. And people say, so you went to Disney World. How was your trip? And they say, well, the good news was we didn't wait in line for anything. The bad news is that's because nobody was there and there were half the things there used to be, and everything's under construction. How is that going to encourage the word of mouth that they need to have their friends and their family and everybody else want to go too?
Yeah, Wizard, I want to go ahead and ask you about this because I think the biggest play for Disney, especially with Epic Universe opening, because you're never going to be able to match it. And even if you are, it's going to take you 3 to 5 years to get there. Is the play nostalgia? And why get rid of nostalgia now?
Good point.
Yeah. You know, I feel like, you know, that's a good point. Also, I feel like, you know, entertainment like this parade, you know, I don't know what's wrong with it, but they should get it hurry up and going because things like Paint the Night, which is nostalgia and a parade, got me back to Disneyland for the 70th anniversary. So, Magic Kingdom needs as much entertainment and quick little things, street atmosphere or something, to go ahead and promote themselves to get people at least to come because there won't be anything new for like years. And then if things are closed or under construction, then then there's no reason to spend $200 or whatever to go over to experience a half-day park when everything's under construction and there's no entertainment or anything.
Yeah, I mean, as Captain Fireball Wild Bumper actually says in the chat, Big Thunder down, River down, Buzz Lightyear down, Touch Truck down, Muppets down. The Summer Magic really would be suffering. I mean,
but wait, we have
please.
Tiana's Bayou stare at you.
Yes, Tiana's Bayou
Dancing
Adventure.
okra, no less. For God's sakes, where is your sense of mirth and magic?
And just in case the panel is curious, I can confirm when I was there that morning, I wasn't watching it like a hawk, but Tiana's was down starting out the day. So don't worry, it's staying relevant in that regard.
Of course, Tiana's
Hey,
was
consistency
down.
is a big deal. You know, you got to give them credit for that.
That's a fair point.
I have a question. This is something I will just have to keep, following and monitoring, and I know we will.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if this is the start of low attendance because of the changes and because of the distaste of the changes.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an impact there, where people are just, if you're going to change something so beloved, then why should I bother going anymore?
Yeah,
And let's consider this when you talk about nostalgia. They just made a big deal out of the fact that, guests need not attend the final performance of the Muppets. So if you were thinking, well, gee, if they're tearing it down, I better go see it one more time. But then you think, but I may not be able to even get to see it one more time because if I get there, it might be already boarded up. At that point, you lose interest. At that point, you just say, well, I'll always have my memories. We'll always have Paris. We didn't, but now we do. 10 points in the chat for knowing where that's from.
Yeah, 10 points indeed. Hey, Hollywood back level, Lou and you. Little reference right there. Yeah, I think Erika, Lou, I think you make a really good points. This idea that possibly the backlash has already started, and to be honest, it's like, look, it takes thousands of dollars to actually go down to Walt Disney World, or I should say Central Florida. I'm definitely going to go to Epic, that's for sure. And if Epic's going to make me go to multiple parks, I'm definitely going to go to those parks. Why should I necessarily include Walt Disney World into that vacation, especially if I've seen it before on trips past and not much has changed? In fact, maybe things have changed for the better. Maybe I don't like the Epcot overhaul. Maybe I don't like the fact that they took out Tiana's Bike Adventure and took out Splash Mountain and put in Tiana's Bike Adventure. Sorry, that was a wish casting right there. Actually happening in the background. It could be. I think it's possible that this stuff has actually happened right now.
Hold on, Vash. How dare
please.
you? Are you suggesting that rational, logical people with a limited amount of money to spend would say, well, I used to really enjoy all the great things at Epcot, wonders of life and horizons and world of motion. But now I can dance with Goofy and they wouldn't take that choice?
Yeah, for what?
And that.
In some cases, what, plus $125 a day? God.
I am not paying thousands of dollars for a trip to Disney for hula hooping, parachute shaking, kindergarten stuff that happens in schools. Like, no, no. I don't even like the park play areas. We're there for attractions. We're there for shows. We're there for popcorn, like the good snacks. And if I'm going to do any add-ons in that kind of heat, it's going to be water parks and the beach.
And Kevin Apollo priced one of those parachutes, and it was like $300 online anywhere.
Right.
You too can have Disney at home without, by the way, that rug that all those kids are going to be sweating and pooping and peeing on, and without the pedophiles hanging around the edge of the thing having their jollies watching. To be frank.
That is I suppose that is a consideration there. Let's see, Dan's Life at the Kingdom. If Hall of Presidents opens, then Disney is somewhat magical again. That's the interesting thing too. It should have already opened by now. The fact that they haven't even talked about it, I mean, we haven't even gotten a Disney Parks blog post or anything about it, I think is very interesting.
Well,
for sure.
There's a certain amount of self-preservation going on here. The View ladies did not like Bob Iger coming and telling them they should cool it. Imagine if he'd come there after opening the Donald Trump Hall of Presidents feature.
Yeah,
he wouldn't have gotten out of that room alive. So
that's a fair point right there. Oh, Bob. Oh, the cage that we've constructed for ourselves. That is for sure. But speaking of I guess. Anyway, things that have been constructed that guests can really, really have some fun at. Well, we have to be talking about Epic Universe, but I want to talk about one particular aspect. Now, I want Nolan to regale us of his amazing time at Epic and how the grand opening festivities actually went. I know Erika has a lot of thoughts on that, and I want to go ahead and transition into, well, what's going on today. Nolan, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, kind sir. And any questions from the panel, I'm more than happy to answer, because I'm sure there's a lot of, questions and concern about everything that happened at this event. But let me say, it was worth it. It was totally worth it. With how much sleep to ever losing a lot of dinero, how much sleep I lost this past week, the amount of sweat that left my body, it was worth it, because this was such an event, an occasion. Wow. I gotta say, I had been a bit, critical of some of the decisions Universal had made leading up to Epic Universe, with a lot of people getting in the park early, the amount of spoilers all over social media. But I will say, when it came to opening day, they took pretty good care of the people who were there to make them truly feel like they were going to be a part of one of the biggest events on the planet of that day. The cast was super friendly, nice, respectful. They had to, enforce certain rules, but they treated you like family in a way, as opposed to like cattle walking into an amusement park. Even the security guards, they got into it. That guy right there, I cannot remember his name to save my life. I'm sorry, but people were literally shouting his name from the crowd at the amount of excitement they had, because of how much he was really getting people into it. People were charging for the gates and this pure excitement, and they delivered. There were people who had stayed overnight. There were people with inflatable pull-out things that got from Amazon to sleep by the gate. And that crowd progressively got bigger and bigger as time went. And you can probably see the hordes of people I am in. I feel like a tiny little gnat inside that crowd there. Once they eventually let you in the gate, early, mind you, because Universal lies about everything and never listed them on a schedule, we made our way over to the Harry Potter area. And they started lighting off these fireworks around the Helios Hotel. There was this beautiful music going around. And there was even a speech aired over the radio by Steven Spielberg, of all people. I'm thinking they had him record a special thing just for this event, because I did not recognize the speech.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, they even, if Vash would like to show the Harry Potter portal again here at some point, they even let one of the girls who, the legend she was in, those Hogwarts gowns, so she was raining in sweat. They let her and her friend be the first in line to go in there early, be the first on ballot the ministry, so that was really, really cool. But it really felt, if you've ever been to like a sports game, like that home team environment, it was like that, but amp it up by about 10, because everyone was just so excited to be a part of history, something so special. We hadn't had a theme park launch in over like 20 years. And we were walking into not just something that's going to be, great for the numbers, great for sales and all that, but made by people who actually gave a crap about what they were working on. The passion that went into making sure this was true to Harry Potter, true to Mario, Nintendo, Donkey Kong, How to Train Your Dragon, all that. You were walking into passion. And experiencing someone's art can be one of the most beautiful experiences of your life. Sometimes one of the worst, depending on the art you're walking into. But thankfully, they had a big checkbook and a lot of passion. And what I walked into was simply incredible. I cannot recommend Epic Universe enough to all the people who want to experience it. Thankfully, it seemed like Universal were holding back the tickets a bit to where you weren't going to have such crazy, insane crowds throughout the day, to where you could actually take some time, to get photos, experiencing the land a bit, as opposed to seeing like 200 people in front of you. Most of these crowds you're seeing on screen right now were from the initial batch, getting into the gates. Once the day started going, things started chilling off a bit. You actually had room. The park was so big, so open, with so many different things to do. And I will confidently say, this was the most beautiful park I have ever been into. I've been on a lot of parks around the globe, from Cedar Fair parks, Disney parks, Universal parks, Six Flags, though Six Flags ain't that hard. But this thing was a work of beauty. It was like walking into a museum of just the little expert details they put in this. They treated their fans well, and I was happy to support it. And while it was a bit of money, to get in that first opening day, it's going to still be more affordable than some of the other options you have out there in this economy. And if you've been seeing all the stuff on socials and all that, I'd say if you're interested, go for it, because this is legitimately an experience. And unlike, say, like FanFest or something like that, where, it's a limited time window, and once it's done, you have to wait for next year, it's going to be around for a very long time. So plan out a trip how you want it to be. It was fun, and it was such an honor to get to experience a part of history in one of the best theme parks ever created and crafted by man. And I don't know, maybe there were aliens involved with how beautiful it worked out. But it was great. I loved it. It was purely epic.
Well, actually, Pamela S914 asks, Nolan, do you think it could be enjoyed by people that aren't into Nintendo and haven't seen How to Train Your Dragon and other dark movies?
Absolutely, Pamela. In fact, I had never seen any of the How to Train Your Dragon movies before coming to this park. And I have a newfound appreciation for it because, I would definitely like to check out the first one sometime in the near future. But it doesn't matter because, like with any great kind of art or creation, it's going to have a broad appeal. I'm not going to go out my way and say, oh, yeah, everybody's going to adore this thing. It's going to be the greatest thing, no matter if you're from Seattle to Washington. It's not like that. But it's got such a broad appeal that a huge majority of people can understand what's going on. I don't know why in How to Train Your Dragons it was called the Isle of Berk. And I didn't even understand the whole quote about here there are dragons, like what that relevance meant to the movie. I barely knew anything about it, but I will say that coaster theme to it was amazing. And the stage show, my goodness, the stage show called The Untrainable Dragon is literally one of the best performances I have ever seen. It is up there with a Cirque du Soleil show. And the only one, unfortunately, I've ever seen is the one at Disney, which is really good in my opinion. But when it comes to stage performances, the use of animatronic and stage prop dragons in that show is next level. It feels like something that belongs in the 2020s. It doesn't feel like you're just nostalgia baiting on something that a concept someone clever came up with 40 years ago. This is new. It's current, and it's going to leave an impact even if you hate dragons. Okay, if you hate dragons, maybe not. But even if you're not into those animated lands kind of thing, there's something almost anyone can appreciate. And now I'm a sucker for Nintendo. I'm a sucker for old horror movies. That's my thing. But you know what? I was with my mother there. I was with family, and she's not into Nintendo like me, but she was still on cloud nine by the amount of detail and the life that's in it. It's literally the progression of Disney that we've wanted to see for years. And even if this stuff doesn't seem like your first choice, it's still going to leave a big impact. And if you don't like what you see now, well, wait a few years, because I think it's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, I think we have somebody actually on the phone that can speak to wait a few years and maybe it gets better. Right, Wizard? I mean, come on. We're getting some good stuff. Am I right?
Yeah, we got some Zeldas and some Luigi's and some other cool stuff coming in the next few years, and I can't wait to see what the technology will be like when those new lands open in the next few years.
Oh,
yeah, this is not a place that's going to rest on their laurels and repeat themselves.
No,
that's clear.
And they know that Disney is behind the eight ball, so they're going to hit the gas. And I think that's absolutely phenomenal. I think it's great. And it's why we're seeing so many, let's say, dirt patches in some places, right? Because it's like, well, let's not even worry about paving over, because we're going to develop those right now. I think it's super, super cool. Now, somebody actually asked you a question, I believe right here. Yes, Be Our Geist. Nolan Thunder, were you in the Stardust Racers single rider line at the end of the opening day? I thought I saw you ahead of me, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Oh my gosh, you just said hi. You probably saw me. So we weren't, we accidentally ended up in the single rider line, and we made our way, I think, over to the orange line, because we did Stardust Racers a little bit earlier in the day, just walked right on it. It was great. And it was the biggest shock of the theme park, mind you, because that as someone who's been on record-breaking coasters from a lot of different parks, particularly the Cedar Fair parks, I'm kind of spoiled when it comes to my tolerance of a roller coaster. You got to do a lot to wow me. This, I was laughing throughout the whole thing because this thing was insane. Throughout all the craziness we heard leading up to it, like the troubles they were having getting this thing out of the gate, I was completely shocked by how fun and exciting this ride is during the daytime. And going back to your question, BR guys, I did ride it again at nighttime, and it's arguably even better at that time. And I was flip-flopping a bit trying to get the right spot for the end of the day. And I did pick riding it at night over the light show they had at night. So it was worth it. And I think you did see me. So if that's the case, I apologize in advance.
I love watching the videos of people who aren't in the front row and getting a sense of the hang time and the air time from the hair, the people in front of them around the edge of the seat going up and down and left and right and sideways as the coaster moves. It's a pretty special machine.
It's pretty awesome.
Those issues they had about pacing and they've obviously fixed them. As I knew they would, and that's why I'm so confident that they will get Harry Potter up to speed shortly. It just these things are new.
Wizard, I wanted to ask you the dueling aspect of this. Were we able to confirm that this is going to be a regular thing?
Yes, the dueling is actually a permanent thing.
Okay, because I always worry when these parks or ride manufacturers say, "Hey, it's dueling," and it's like, "Great! Am I even going to have a chance to see it duel?" We saw that with actually Dueling Dragons, ironically enough, but we also saw that with Twisted Colossus and all that kind of stuff.
This ain't no Twisted Colossus.
Well, that's great. That's fantastic. Erika, I think you were right, by the way. I think Mac did it. I think it brought us one of the best coasters. Some people are saying in the world, certainly one of the best in Orlando, and that goes up right against Velocicoaster and Iron Gwazi. Come on, you got to be excited.
The best in Orlando, Vash. The best.
I'm going to go with World, but I'm a little biased here. I don't ride coasters a whole lot, but I admire the ingenuity of them. And this is just a masterpiece, in my opinion. And I'm
even down to the simple idea of it's lit up and the track isn't. So it literally is a comet going through the sky at night. That's pretty brilliant.
I have a question for Nolan. How was the food, and what did you eat?
That's what I was going to ask. What was the best vegan
and then
thing you had?
My second question to that is, did you go to Publix by chance?
All right. So I'm going to start out with making you disappointed, but I'm going to make you super excited by the end of it instead. Okay. So Publix was down here on the ranking of things I needed to do in Florida. And unfortunately, no go. So to the CEO of Publix, I just want to go on the record and say, I am sorry. But in regards to the food at Epic Universe, that's a different story. It was pretty fun. It was a good time. The food was good. I do not think it is as good as Disney some call them vegan boys. I call them plant-based kings, personally. It was their aesthetic in their cafes blow Disney out of the water. The Toadstool Cafe felt like an attraction in itself. It was so alive. There was always things going on. They had little projectors on the windows, make it look like there were toads cooking up the food for you. And just the immersion was great. And the nice thing about Epic Universe as well, there are actually seats. The whole process of ordering food is top notch because they put little QR codes on your table. You don't even have to talk to somebody. You just scan the QR code, you order what you want, and they'll bring it out right to your table like that. This isn't like Disney where it is a mess. Like literally, me and my mother have this joke about how Disney, you can never get a seat for anything. You pretty much have to eat on top of a trash can just to have a place to put your food at.
Yes.
Epic, completely different story. Plenty of room. The theming was great. The food, I can't say it was as good as I wanted it to be, and that would be one of my only gripes with Epic, honestly, is I wish some of the food would taste a little better for those who are vegetarian. But I think Disney just still has more tasty options to begin with. But that's something that can come within time, That's not a reason to not go there if you eat, a lot of plant-based food and such. But what I will say is something this isn't vegan friendly, but this is vegetarian friendly, is the Isle of Burke has the macaroni cone thing with the goldfish crackers in it. And I wanted to try that for the meme of it. It reminded me of the hand witch, if anyone remembers that from Disney back in the day.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to try it, and I'm expecting it to be complete trash. I expected it to be awful. It was amazing. It was great. It was the best food I had there. I could not believe how tasty it was. It felt like you were on like an elegant Thanksgiving roll with like the spices it put in there. And macaroni and goldfish crackers. I don't know what madman in the Dark Universe area decided to come up with that evil concoction, but it slaps, and I loved it. So
you'll be putting goldfish on your mac and cheese at home now.
Yeah, I actually am going to try it because I liked it so much. That's the impact it has. Like I said, I think some of the options could be a little more varied, but presentation was absolutely top notch. One of my favorite things I got to try there was actually in the Toadstool Cafe. They actually have a big cake. It's about double the price of the other food. It was like $22, $23 compared to, a little under 10 for most of your normal foods like the Mario burger, the Luigi burger. But this was made to look like the cake you see in a lot of the Mario games, like Super Mario 64, that Peach will bake for Mario after he rescues her. There's even a little cookie thing on the front that's printed on it with a message from the princess to you as like a thank you. Everything in those food areas felt so alive, so fitting, so perfect. And even if you didn't like the food, you're going to get a great picture for your Instagram. I cannot stress enough about how much a win and a home run it was for their food presentation, because in the time that you take getting to enjoy the options that they provide for you, you're spending all that time getting a seat at the Magic Kingdom. I maybe the taste would be a little better, but it was still top notch.
That is awesome. Everybody who has gone has said that the food is one of the best aspects. Super, super cool that at least you got to try a couple of offerings. I know, you can't do meat, so I won't put it on you. By the way, did you get the butterbeer crepe by any chance?
Yes, it was boring. I was very disappointed. I wanted it to be good. I really did. We were hyping this thing up like mad, and even my mother, who is a carnivore, we were on the same page that Disney still has them beat as far as the taste of the food, because we were hyping that thing for months, and when we finally got to it, the restaurant itself was great. The staff was so friendly, but it's also quick service. You will never find a quick service restaurant anywhere near as good as Epic Universe, because a lot of these would be stuff that, if it was Disney, it would be like Space 220 at Epcot, where you basically would need to reserve it just to get the experience. All that and more is included in Epic. But the food quality of the crepes, it was very bland, and I was very disappointed. I'm sad to say that.
Oh, I
Chacun a son butterbeer, as they say in France in the Wizarding World. But
somebody who might not be a fan of that. That's not good. Well, I've heard that the food program there, they really gave it the attention and time I think it deserved, and I think I have to try some of that stuff in person. I know that the cone thing is really super popular. Isle of Burke. Everybody raves about it. Now, I heard though, pricey though. I think it was $20 there. That's up there. Wizard, they're trying to make that $7.7 billion investment back on the food.
Oh, they sure are. And get ready to pay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you what I have seen though, because the presentations are all so wonderfully intricate and exacting. Unlike a lot of restaurants, you're paying for the staff time and the expertise as much as you are for the ingredients. When you see those things, I am not a fan of food that looks overhandled. You know what I mean? That I say, well, 17 people touched this before it got to my plate. I don't think I want it. But this stuff looks great. I was watching a review by somebody of the Pan Asian place, Blue Dragon? And wow, there's some amazingly good-looking things in there. I think it's safe to say that the epitome of Disney food was opening Epcot for places like Chef de France and so many of the restaurants over there, none of which have gotten better than they ever were, most of which have gotten mediocre. And this, the takeaway stuff, the everyday stuff has that level of effort, if not success. So you got to hand it to them. They really made it a reason to go for some people.
Oh, so good. And let's talk about those reasons to go, because I think those are also very, very fascinating. People aren't going to the degree that many people thought. That doesn't mean that they're going because they're choosing not to go. That's the key issue here, because a lot of people are suggesting that, this park is so lightly attended. It must be because people are choosing not to go, as you can see in this post right here. There you go.
Yeah,
put it up there.
There's a deeper dive to do here.
Yeah. Yes. It is. From what I can gather, I think it's very clear that Universal, they saw how the preview period went, and they said, that didn't go so well. We have to ramp up in order to get attendance to as high as maybe we want, maybe a late summer, fall, that kind of thing. So we're going to start out a little bit more conservatively, let's say, with the attendance than maybe we did during the preview period. Go ahead.
As you can see over there, it says that the vast majority of the people who were there by way of Universal hotels. Well, they had no reason to drive into that parking lot. They've got all those buses that bring them back and forth, or even just walking in from the Stellas or the Helios. Correct. So that explains a lot of it to me.
Yes, I would think so. And I know Blog Mickey, and there have been some others that have said, wait a minute, they're not capping attendance. These days are available. And it's like, yeah, they're available now, but for months on months on months, these days weren't available. And that's the thing. Single day tickets weren't even available until 2 months ago? And even then they sold out relatively quickly. It's only recently have these attendance caps been maybe raised. But here's the thing. A lot of people have already booked their vacations and have already planned ahead thinking that they couldn't get in. Now they can. Now you have to shift. Go ahead, Noel.
Yeah. I got my tickets back in October, and for the longest time, that was like half a year ago at this point, guys, like, you were not able to get these tickets. So to think that, this attendance is so bad because people just, Epic Universe ain't all that, people don't want to go that bad. Like, I saw a group of 2 people there, and they weren't able to go to the first day. We met them at one of our hotels at Universal, and they had gotten their day 2 tickets all the way back in April. They have been intentionally holding these back to try to control the crowds. And keep in mind, a lot of the exposure people are going to get of these parks in this day and age are going to come from YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever have you. They want to have the park looking at its best. And I'm going to be real here. For example, I'm not usually a big goer when it comes to, say, when I go to Disney and I go to Magic Kingdom during the normal operation hours, because the crowds just drive me crazy and I can't really enjoy everything that's around me because I'm very big on environment and presentation. If you're coming out with a brand new theme park and you're trying to build a reputation like the Magic Kingdom has in the hearts of so many, you want to be able to show all that beautiful detail they have there. And not to mention, when you have very few crowds and the word's getting out that, hey, attendance is very low at Epic Universe, well, people are going to start opening up their phones as we speak and trying to book a trip because they think when we get into summertime that it's going to be as low. I don't see it at all. I think by the time we get into July, these crowds are going to be much, much bigger. I think this was intentional because it's absolutely in the preview nights.
Mhm.
And there's one more factor here. We've all, I think, realized from the footage we've seen and you from being there, how brilliant these, for lack of a better term, streetmosphere people have been in all these areas. Those people at Burke and the ones in Harry Potter and Igor, and they're really good, just as they were at FanFest at Universal Hollywood, because they rehearsed. But you know what? Actors can rehearse. Ticket takers and drink handers over and the rest of all the many people, ride operators, they rehearse by doing. And so by having more handleable crowds at the beginning, they're building up the expertise at their jobs that are going to make them second nature. When there's 3 times as many people there, it'll still be as good. So that's part of it too. It's a training period for the staff.
I would agree with that. It is a training period. I know that they started off with a certain number of team members, and it takes a while to hire up for these parks, so that limits your capacity as well. Wizard, are we hopeful that Universal will ramp up not only just operating capacity, but also the hours of operation that these parks provide right now? Specifically Epic Universe.
Yes, I am very hopeful they'll ramp up those hours. And in terms of people, like I said earlier today, there's a lot more people as I'm looking at the app right now, and there's many rides over an hour wait.
Yep.
So people have been showing up today. But I'm sure that, but as everyone said, as you ramp up over the next few months, there'll be more and more people, higher capacity, and hopefully even later hours in the debut of a nighttime show or two in the summertime. But yeah, last week, obviously, there wasn't that many people, and now all the people on Twitter have stopped talking because the wait times are much higher today. So,
right.
You gotta give it some patience and then ramp up, especially June 1st when the single day ticket people start coming in. Then it'll be, I'm sure, much higher already next week.
And this is a management style that pays attention, listens, and adjusts. You know, they might have more people in there today just by allowing the ticket sales than they did last week. And they might have less tomorrow because they may say, okay, we did it at that level. What lessons did we learn? What do we need to do differently before we do it again? Just like the whole, we're not going to do these endless screen-based rides aspect to it.
Well, I think a lot of people maybe have seen the Memorial Day weekend crowds. They saw the opening day. They were like, ooh, nice day to visit. So if you had the means to visit right now, I think it's like, hey, let's go ahead and jump on this. And I think that's what is being reflected here. I think you have an attendance increase, but also too, people willing and wanting to go and now realizing, oh, it's not going to be that bad at all.
And locals who were avoiding the opening couple of days thinking, oh, it's going to be a madhouse. Let me wait till it gets calmed down a little bit and saying, oh, wait, that time is now.
Right. And well, you're seeing right now, look, Minecart Madness, 65 minutes. Monsters Unchained, 10 minutes. I think it's a high capacity attraction. Harry Potter and the Battle of the Ministry, 150 minutes. Obviously, if that's still at reduced capacity, well, reflect that. Hiccup's Wing Gliders, 35 minutes. Curse of the Werewolf, 60 minutes. Dragons Racers Rally, 45 minutes. So people are showing up. People are coming. By the way, those numbers provided excellently by Nolan Thunder, who was like, hey, get these up on the screen right now.
And by the way, when we saw the numbers for Disney, the longest wait at Magic Kingdom is the shortest ride, and that's Tron.
Yeah, Tron.
So wait for 150 minutes for a 4-minute ride. You might start saying, oh, I don't know if that was a good bargain with my time.
I don't know if that we should have been doing that right there. Let's see here. Let's actually see what the wait times are at Magic Kingdom. If I can open up my app, if it works. Wow,
but that's 50 minutes for Yoshi is a huge difference than it was the first couple of days.
Right.
That was a walk-in all day long because it's a people mover.
It's basically a people mover. Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And here's the other thing too. Some people are being exceptionally harsh with Epic Universe, And I don't know if that's having any impact on attendance, but this this tweet right here is getting roasted right now. This review by IGN. Filled with magic monsters, dragons, stars, and plumbers, Epic Universe lives up to its name and then some. While it isn't without its a few stumbles and a few forgettable rides. Whoa!
What?
Forgettable rides!
What?
The immersion and moments that take your breath away and transport you far away from Orlando and into the stories we hold closest to our hearts are unmatched. Nolan, any forgettable rides at Epic Universe?
So, somehow, in my nearly 15-year YouTube career, I've never made this statement before, but I think it would be the most fitting time, if any. You can't spell ignorant without IGN, first off. Second off, ooh. Second off, no, guys, are there a lot of Nintendo theme parks out there? And does any of this look cheap to any of y'all? I mean, the Yoshi Dark Ride, it's essentially a people mover, but it's filled to the brim with Yoshis. It's not there to be explosions in your face. It's there to be Yoshis. It's there to be cute. It's there for the little ones to go on. You can't go on the minor cart ride. Make your point, Lou. Go ahead.
Well, even more importantly, I think, is there's all this stuff to do that isn't a ride. All of these things, look at what they're doing here. Look at all those things with the magic bands that they use to keep track of the numbers. And look at the wands and all the activations they create. And then when you were talking about the dragon show, gosh, you know, if that was at Disney, it would be Cirque du Soleil, and it would be $150 a ticket just to see the show. But it's part of the deal. Same thing with the stuff I've seen of that Cirque Arcanu. It looks spectacular. And once they start having more shows, musical shows in the Celestial Park bandstands and a parade or two, that's a lot of value for your admission that has nothing to do with how long you wait for a particular ride.
Yeah,
the rides get promoted first and foremost because they're so unique and spectacular. But forgettable, I don't think so. Not in the context of the entire experience.
It looks like this effect here is reflected at Magic Kingdom as well. It looks like, let's see, 35 minutes for Pirates of the Caribbean. It looks like 65 for Space Mountain, 75 for Tron. Longest wait time in the park? Well, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, 85 minutes. It is a hot day. So there you go. Well, yeah, I think Epic is on a great path to success. I think people are going to go gangbusters for this actual park right here. Like you said, no, there is no other Nintendo park. There is no, other place that you can experience something like Battle at the Ministry or Monsters Unchained.
There's no other place you can experience what you're looking at right there. In Japan, it's mist, not water.
That's true.
Yes, there's differences. As someone who's been to two different versions of the Nintendo Land Mario attraction, both in Epic Universe, but also during FanFest over in California, Hollywood, it had different things about it. The Yoshi stuff, the Donkey Kong stuff, that stuff is exclusive to over there as far as North America goes. And even as someone who was very interactive with the land during the Yoshi meet and greet event, seeking out to find the eggs to meet the different colored Yoshis, I had never done like the block puzzle thing before, doing the Bowser Jr. challenge. There's a few different keys, they call them, that you can get while you have the magic bands there. And you can go on an exclusive little ride that's an event against Bowser Jr. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's something that it's going to be fun for the whole family with how interactive it is. And it's not something that gets promoted a lot either. There's so much detail. So I just have to ask, what's not memorable about this? You could literally talk to a talking monkey in the queue. What more could you want in life?
Well, there are people out there who talk to talking monkeys all day long, but they're hopefully contained elsewhere.
Yeah, well, that's one could only hope here. Now, I want to go ahead and incorporate Wizard into this last segment right here before ending the show. We're going to end just a little bit early here. I want to talk about this for just a second because, Epic Universe is doing well, and I am thankful that it is. And maybe Magic Kingdom has picked up now that people know that, Epic Universe is open for business. I want to talk about this story right here. I think this is very important to the theme park industry. And Nolan, I think, is going to have particular interest in some of these things that I'm going to be talking about today. This from That Park Place. Six Flags theme park shock as Knott's and Magic Mountain presidents fired after $8 billion merger. More layoffs inbound. This by Marvin Montanero, May 25th, 2025. How many people are we talking about right here in terms of presidents? Well, here you go. The ripple effects of the $8 billion Six Flags Cedar Fair merger have officially reached Southern California, with Knott's Berry Farm and Six Flags Magic Mountain losing their longtime presidents in a dramatic reshaping of leadership across the company's 27 amusement parks. Yes, they're removing all 27 presidents across the
consolidating regional areas under one manager. And
correct.
That makes sense because they got a lot of duplication right now.
That's a fair point. Just
like what we saw with the Pacific Rim guy running both Universal Hollywood and the Asian parks.
That's true. As part of a sweeping operational overhaul under the newly merged entertainment giant, Six Flags Cedar Fair has laid off Knott's president John Storbuck and Magic Mountain president Jeff Harris. Now, apparently Jeff Harris, not beloved, but John Storbuck, actually, it's a different story. Both remain in their positions to the end of May, but will not be replaced. John Storbuck actually worked at Disney for 30 years before actually being poached by Cedar Fair. Well, I say poached. I think he left and then was hired by Cedar Fair for Knott's Berry Farm. Anyway, 30 years experience, a top tier guy from what I understand. Joined Knott's Berry Farm in 2016, led that park actually through the COVID era, which, if you remember, that area was particularly troublesome for Southern California theme parks, especially because, well, I should say all California parks, because Gavin Newsom kept it closed for an extended period of time. Disneyland didn't open for 412 days, not much better, but John Storbuck was the guy that said, hey, let's go ahead and make a food festival out of this outside of the theme park gates, and that way we can keep the revenue coming in. And that was soon later adopted by Six Flags, and I think Universal joined into the action, if I'm not mistaken, Wizard. And then Disney joined in later on. This is pretty big for the theme park industry, Wizard. What have you been hearing? What are your comments and thoughts on all this? Do you agree with Lou's point about this consolidation effort being worthwhile? Your take on this entirely.
Yeah, I feel like Lou was right with the consolidation, but I'm curious. I wonder what it will mean because I feel like, for example, Magic Mountain, it actually may be a slightly good thing because their park presidents never really cared about the park, so it could be a good thing for Magic Mountain. Maybe someone higher up takes charge, but for it's a very different park and seems like it was really well taken care of. So I hope it doesn't have a negative effect on Knott's Berry Farm. Is my only worry. I feel like it was so good for Six Flags, I think, Magic Mountain, and bad for Knott's Berry Farm, I feel like.
And it's making a major financial dent, which is going to tell the stockholders, see, we really are going to cut the fat. And if they cut too much, they can always bring some back. My question is, if you're this guy, what do you do next?
Yeah,
you've obviously burned the bridge at Disney when you left them to go to Knott's. Who's left? I think you got to get into retail or restaurants or something like that because otherwise you're overqualified for almost everything out there.
You could be like Paul Presser, join the Gap and run that into the ground. Oh,
well, there you go.
That's what happened to Paul Presser. But Matt we met, who led Disneyland actually through its Renaissance period, I want to say, 2005 and the 50th anniversary and all of that. Very noteworthy as part of Disney Cruise Line. Then moved over to Disneyland Resort, reinvigorated that whole place, and then left in order to join Cedar Fair and was the CEO of that resort venture for a period of time. He had this to say on this. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring this up. Former Cedar Fair CEO Matt commented on his LinkedIn account about the latest round of layoffs at Six Flags. This die was cast when the merger agreement was signed. Matt wrote in LinkedIn, it isn't because the business or the individuals were performing poorly. This is purely math, which was sad, a reality. But I think Lou is right. I think because of how large the Six Flags chain is right now, under this acquisition, they have to reduce operating costs and they have to consolidate in some way. Apparently, this is going to be, a 10% workforce headcount there. I think the Southern California parks in particular are losing about 135 people across various divisions and segments of that particular branch right there. This is tough indeed. Now, Nolan, I want to go ahead and get your thoughts on this particular aspect here, because I'm hearing it's not stopping at nearly just executive production. I'm hearing, your favorite coasters might be affected. So I was talking to Almighty Coasters there on who is on YouTube right there. Amazing stuff from him. Apparently, from what I understand, everything Aero across the line might be gone in the next 5 years. Yeah. I now, save for a couple of coasters, but let's say Viper, for example, that's gone. And it's because I guess Cedar Fair has had issues with Aero. And so it's like, okay, well, we don't want to keep ordering from S&S, the company who took over from them. Their coasters are old and, out of date. So let's go ahead and make that transition now. I'm hearing that maybe Tatsu over there at Six Flags Magic Mountain, maybe X2 might be gone within the next 5 years, because it's, a lot of those Six Flags coasters that they inherited are expensive to operate. So, go ahead, Neil.
So what's also old and out of date? Dumbo at Magic Kingdom. That one's pretty old and it's not really all that relevant. But the reality is that a lot of these rides do not have the same legacy as a lot of the OG Disneyland, Disney World attractions, whatever. Mind you, I would say,
the same cost to operate. That's the issue.
True, very true.
Every one of these, I'm sure they have the numbers. It costs us X number of dollars a day to run this thing, and it's X percentage of our people who come here to ride this thing. And would they be happy with 10 coasters instead of 12 or whatever the number may be? And if the answer is yes, the one you drop is the one that's on the popularity to expense scale, the most obvious on a purely monetary basis.
We very recently here saw what happened with Kingda Ka at Six Flags in New Jersey. It was the tallest roller coaster in America and one I'd wanted to ride for over a decade now. And they didn't even give you a chance to have one more year to ride it out, like an announcement like a lot of park places will do is like, hey, you guys, you still have a month to ride Kingda Ka. That wasn't the case at all. They didn't announce that it was truly closing until after it already closed for the season. Everything about people trying to go to ride it last minute were all from rumors. It was a bit of a mess. And honestly, a lot of the moves being made do line up with Cedar Fair, because Cedar Fair is one that's a lot more along the lines of like a Dollywood, where they're more about, safety, making sure there's quality in your parks, making sure money's going to stuff for, your experience, as opposed to 12 other problematic coasters that are going to cost us so much. There has to be a reason why Six Flags was so eager to merge, because clearly they had a lot of financial burdens, such as Kingda Ka. I think it fits in with Cedar Fair's character, for better or worse, that a lot of these will be closing. Now, my coaster historian here, as someone who owns blueprints for Son of Beast, a former coaster that was over at Kings Island back in the day for a good 9 years, 10 years, whatever. And it's hard because I'm seeing a lot of things right now from my favorite eras, like from the 90s or early 2000s, from many different companies, everything from Wicked Twister at Cedar Point to Muppet Vision 3D over at Disney World. And it sucks when rides, get older and they aren't given the museum treatment you want them to have. Because, there's a lot of love for a lot of 60s rides out there, like Blue Streak over in Cedar Point. I'm sure there's some other good examples out there, not really off the top of my head right now. But the reality is, a good majority of the coasters that used to operate in the 60s probably don't exist anymore. And we're probably going to see that happen more and more, especially with coasters
And
that
I think it's
outside of Florida.
I think it's more likely to happen at the seasonal parks versus the all year long parks. And the reason is, if it's open all year, you're maintaining all year. But if it's closed because of extreme weather, that's a lot of time for water and wind and other things to degrade the metal.
Absolutely.
And then you're getting ready to open, and you're 4 weeks away from opening, and you find out, and it's suddenly, well, if we really want to open that safely, it's going to cost X. That's an issue, and we don't know what the metal fatigue is like on all those things, or the wood.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been to Cedar Point before during winter chill out, where you get to see what these rides are like, when it's too cold to ride them. There's snow out, frigid temperatures right off of Lake Erie. I've seen them under construction of their new roller coaster. It's called Siren's Curse, in the middle of the snow. This stuff is hard to do. It just sucks that it's the reality of how this industry works. And it's so sad because All American Aero and its varying, names over the years is a juggernaut in the coaster industry. And it's tragic that so many of them have to go. But if it's from, the hole that Six Flags seems to have dug themselves into, and Cedar Fair is trying to make this thing more profitable, I can't say I'm surprised, but the bloodshed hurts. It really does, because that's not just a ride. That's someone's childhood. That's someone's memories. And not all these rides are going to make it, which makes, the things such as, Epic Universe kind of bring things full circle a bit, opening all the more special, because thankfully we live in an era where there are going to be good replacements coming around, to make new memories with. And thankfully the theme park industry is healthy. But your point, Lou?
Back to the staffing issue. Let us say for a minute, you've got an F&B manager at Knott's and an F&B manager at Six Flags. Now, granted, they're different cuisines, but everybody sells French fries and everybody sells hamburgers. And it's a heck of a lot cheaper if you get it all from one supplier. And if one person is doing the ordering for both, and suddenly somebody's not going to be there next year. You see what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of jobs like that. Even with relatively, those parks are not close to each other, certainly with the freeways you have to drive to get from one to the other. But there's lots of places where a regional management of HR, of supplies, of maintenance makes a lot of sense. And therefore, the people go away. I remember one year when I was negotiating contracts in the movie industry, was right after NBC and Universal merged. And they each had HR people there representing them at the negotiation, who were looking at each other saying, well, one of us isn't going to be here 3 years from now. It's just been too quick for us to be eliminated beforehand. That's just the nature of the beast. So I think this is something that reasonable people would have expected to happen. It makes a lot of news for, the spectators outside. But in the biz, it's the way it is.
Erika, I want to go ahead and get your thoughts on this, because I know you've known people in the industry. I'll put it like that, because I don't want to reveal anything about you or your personal life. And this has got to be something that has led ripples throughout the industry. I would think anyway, but maybe I'm wrong. Could you illuminate to us just kind of maybe how people might react to this, or how upending this might be, coaster manufacturers and so forth, all of that, please.
Well, first of all, I just want to say it's hard to really compare a theme park to an amusement park, and Cedar Fair tends to lean more into the amusement park category than really a theme park. And as far as coasters go, it's just the nature of the beast with roller coasters. Busch Gardens, Tampa, once upon a time, the iconic coaster used to be Python, and they had to get rid of Python because it got old and rigid. It's not that it wasn't popular and it wasn't beloved. It they just couldn't maintenance it anymore, and its time just capped out. And then now you've got Kumba, and Kumba, since it's been built, has been the icon
Kumba!
of the park. And
Sorry.
but there's a little bit of a caveat to that. I don't know what their plans are for Kumba is, but one thing I've noticed in the roller coaster industry is they're not permanent, because there's something always being built that's bigger or longer or faster or higher. And it's an industry that's constantly pushing the envelope. It's very competitive like that.
The $6 million
And
industry. We can rebuild it stronger, taller, faster.
yeah. And you're just gonna, and unfortunately, those decisions are going to be made for amusement parks. That, well, what fat can we trim to bring in the next best thing, for the next, I don't know, maybe 20 years, and then they're going to have to nix. It's a constant turnover. I'm not going to say all the time, but it's what our parents and grandparents enjoyed in the 60s naturally don't expect to see that around nowadays with coasters. Now with your dark rides and your themed rides, that's just a different gig altogether. Dumbo, yeah, you can enjoy that all the time. It's for kids. It's themed to a movie. That's just in a totally different category than a
But
park that's pretty much nothing but roller coasters.
what made Dumbo different when it opened was that little knob that lets you go up and down on your own rather than just be controlled by the ride. That was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you see that style of flat ride in a lot of carnivals. But because that nostalgia from Disneyland has been passed down for so many generations, it's just kind of a timeless thing. And it goes back to Walt too. So, I mean, there again, it's kind of in its own league than the roller coaster industry.
and it's for smaller
sad.
kids. It's for mom and the kid and dad and the
Mhm.
kid. It's a different audience as part of the whole audience.
Now there's some, there's some good news here in the industry. You have Nemesis over in the UK at Alton Towers, where they recently completely overhauled it. Brand new track, even a brand new theme, and it looks beautiful. I
Yeah.
would love to go to Alton Towers and just ride Nemesis. And you do see that sometimes, where instead of taking out a coaster, it's just retracked and rethemed. You have Hulk over at Islands of Adventure, where they completely rebuilt it. And honestly, and I've been saying this for several years now, going back to Kumba, Busch Gardens needs to make a decision with Kumba. The last few rides I have
Keep
been
it
on,
forever.
In other words,
It
Nolan,
has
your vote is Kumba. Yeah.
Kumba's gotten very rough since it first got built. It's at a point now I won't ride it anymore. It's just too rough. I'm not saying to tear it down, but I believe they could do what Universal did and just replace it with the same coaster, just brand new track, new trains. I don't know why they don't do that, but
Because
I've got
we
my eye on
don't know.
Kumba because it's so old and it really is rough. It's not nearly as smooth as it used to be.
But
So
we don't know if you replace the track. Do you have to replace what's under it? And do you have to replace what's under that? And do you have to replace the anchors in the ground? And at what point do you suddenly say it's a loss total and easier to do something new?
Yeah.
I watch some of these
And
home
there's
render
that
shows
too.
and I go, why don't you just knock it down and build a house? It would be better off.
And
But-
yeah, they could do that. I mean, they took out Python and it never came back. And they didn't just bring out, a copy of it or anything. And I'm not saying it's on the chopping block, officially. That this is just my personal observation. It is not going to surprise me if in the coming few years, maybe distant years, we're going to see either a massive refurb or a replacement. And it's just my advice: if you're a coaster fan, don't ever get too attached to a roller coaster, because unfortunately
No.
they are replaceable. They're always replaceable,
The
unfortunately.
good news is we live longer than they do, most of us.
Yeah, that's true.
And Vash, along those lines, I might recommend, I know by now it's got to be up on this channel. The Genre Guys, of course, did the wonderful movie Roller Coaster, which is in a way about this. It's about a guy trying to bomb a coaster, but the big star coaster at the end was the first loop in North America, as far as I know, which was at Magic Mountain, which is the Revolution. It's still there, as far as I'm aware.
Sorry, I was reading before, and it's very appropriate that you bring that up for sure. You can definitely take a check out on this channel, actually, where you're watching this right now. These attractions have a service life, and they have a shelf life. These coasters, especially. I remember when Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Disneyland was retracked because it's like, hey, the shelf life had expired. Similar to what's actually going on right now in Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Walt Disney World, actually.
Right.
And at the two big theme park proprietors like Universal and Disney, that service life for coasters is actually shorter than you would find in the regional park because more people ride it more often.
Right.
It gets so many more coaster cars on the tracks as compared to like a Six Flags where you might have 2 train ops at most. That's just not the case over there at Disney or Universal.
If you think about it, if as a gamer you've ever played something like Satisfactory, that's what these things are. They are materials handling machines. Only the material is people and speed and at different angles. And all of those in the industrial world have a service life built into them. So
you figure parts change, how these things are engineered change because the technology changes. So sometimes it's hard to just get parts for these older coasters for them to keep maintaining, and it's expensive. So it's cheaper to nix it and build something new.
That's exactly it, right? So Arrow went bankrupt creating X, and then S&S took over. They had to redesign that much of that coaster in order so that even parts could be made available still. And unfortunately, that was successful in the form of X2. But now that means that Cedar Fair, now owned by Six Flags, or do that merger, I guess Cedar Fair operating Six Flags, that chain now has to inherit that relationship and now has to inherit the fact that, S&S has to provide all those parts for that specific coaster. And that goes across the Arrow line. It's like, does that really make sense for us? And so that's, I think, why you're seeing maybe those coasters potentially go away. And these mergers and consolidation that we're seeing in the space are only getting more pronounced, not less. Go ahead, Erika.
And especially when, each coaster company kind of has their niche, they specialize in something a little different than their competitor.
Right.
And then none of these companies are exempt from merging with each other, buying each other out. Like we were basically just talking about. That's basically what we're talking about right now. And, when you have a specific niche, of coaster design, part, speed, everything, and you buy another company, there's no guarantee that when you acquire that company, you're going to keep their designs. You're going to keep how they engineer things,
because there was a reason people bought from them and not you in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The relationship.
There's a lot of factors. I know the coaster industry it's the wild, wild west with, the roller coaster industry.
Well, and
Raph is always online looking at what's going on in theme parks around the world. And the second he hears that there's a change in a coaster somewhere in another country, he's like, oh, did you hear about this or that?
Well, with Mount having their own park, it's funny. Years ago, there was a big advertising battle in the restaurant industry between Coke and Pepsi. And here's how it went. Pepsi, as you may know, owned, and now they spun it off into Yum Brands, but they own KFC and Taco Bell. And so Pepsi said to all the small mom and pop hamburger stands across the country, hey, we understand your business because we're in it too. So therefore you should go with us and not Coke. And Coke's answer was, yeah, they're going to put in one across the street from you and put you out of business. Why would you give them your money? Come to us. So this is the whole Macy's and Gimbel's Disney and Universal competition thing, only in a different arena. That's all.
Sure.
And it's thanks
Exactly.
to them owning those stuff that you had those hybrid buildings of Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut all in the same shindig.
Yum
So the reason that
brands.
still exists today is because of that.
Right.
That was completely irrelevant to the conversation, but I need to share the most important knowledge.
Absolutely. You're absolutely
life.
right. Well,
And
a lot of
Matt
ground
B.
today.
Oh, yes. Matt B coming around here with, walking around, I should say, with the 499. Thank you so much for that. Hershen completed their acquisition of Palace today. Not as big as Six Flags merger, but pretty sizable. 2 big years for consolidation. That's a great story to feature right here. Hershend and Palace, this is big stuff right here. This is when this process started, I do believe, given the date. But now, according to Matt B anyway, this has completed. You'll know Hershend because they, well, I mean, anything that isn't Disney and Universal getting praise right now is basically owned by Hershend already. See Dollywood right here. I think Silver Dollar City. I'm going to go ahead and put the super chat down for just 1 second. Wild Adventures, Callaway. It's already a big brand, and now you can add Palace to its rapport there. So that includes, I believe, let's see, Dutch Wonderland in Lancaster. We have Lake Compounds in Connecticut. We have Kennywood. So now, this process starts all over again. My feeling
how the
with
landscape has changed.
Yeah.
10 years ago, Dollywood was still a wonderful park, but you didn't even think of it in the same sentence with Disney or Universal. But now people are saying, well, maybe I don't have to go all the way across the country, and vice versa. Universal's doing Vegas and Frisco and who knows where else. So
right.
It's a whole different world. It's a whole new world.
I just worry when Cedar Fair is basically operating Six Flags, and you have 27 parks thereabouts, right? When they say, you know what, we don't like doing business with Intamin anymore, we're just not going to do business with them. When they were Cedar Fair, maybe that's one thing, but now that it's 27 parks, it's like, what? We don't get more intimate attractions now on
and
all of those.
Wants the business more because there are fewer takers, so they have to make a better deal.
And apparently Cedar Fair is like, we don't do business with the RMC anymore. So now we don't get any RMCs at Six Flags parks. I mean, that's just crazy, and this kind of continues on right here. So for roller coaster manufacturers in particular, I worry. Go ahead, please.
Oh no, it's the tragedy that is affecting our whole nation as right now because of how the structure has been for so long. It used to be, you had like 20-something companies owning, like everything. Now, I'm sure we've all seen the image online where it's like 6 to 9 companies owning everything, and that causes monopolies, it causes bubbles, and it gives less power to the consumer. Competition is a good thing, and while logically speaking, why the Six Flags merger had to happen with Cedar Fair, for the company's future and still existing. Anytime, all these different brands are owned by one entity, you get the Walt Disney World problem, where basically, like, if Bob Iger doesn't like it, well, that's how it's going to be, no matter what the public wants. And it's a tragedy right now, with everything in the economy. All these companies are doing everything they can to stay afloat. Let's just hope, wherever, things go economically with our country, that it's still going to be a good satisfaction and power for the consumer as opposed to just one entertainment conglomerate.
Well, but the other side of that coin is, as they have to compete, they get better or they get gone. And for example, go back to that map again, Vash. If you don't have to get on a plane to go to Florida or LA to have some fun this summer, that's fewer plane tickets. That's fewer concession sales at airports. That's less Hertz and Avis rental car deals. I mean, there's a yin and yang to this that I think eventually sorts itself out thanks to the glories of a free market and capitalism. End of commercial.
You get that Disney complex where they bite off more than they can chew. And then
Well, Disney's
not that
problem
Disney's
is
done it
hubris
yet,
and arrogance,
well,
not
yeah,
capability, because
but-
they could have the capability if they didn't have the hubris and the arrogance.
That's true.
And the proof of it is all these people, or a lot of them that did this wonderful thing called Epic, used to work for the other guys and could have done it for them too if they'd been encouraged instead of rejected for reasons having nothing to do with their skill. So
My only concern with the theme park industry in the US is if we keep seeing this like monopolization and it keeps shrinking essentially, then what does that mean for theme parks in the US in terms of having plethora of theme parks for us in the US? No, we're a large country, we're huge. And I get, if you're in financial distress and maybe you need to be bought out or whatever, but then there's that monopolization aspect of it too. I'd hate to see this industry shrink to the point where, they keep acquiring companies and then they're having to trim the fat too. And that could
on the other
potentially
hand,
for us less attraction.
if they're dwindling, it's because the people who are dwindled out weren't doing a good job of pleasing people at a price they could afford. So
Yeah.
there's both ways of looking at it.
Oh, absolutely. I think
it's hard to foresee and easy to see, but I foresee the American theme park adventure to continue for a long, long time. Up music with a swell. Ben Franklin, thank you.
This is the map he had me look up the updated map. This is the updated map, including the Palace acquisition properties right there. Ooh, man.
Okay.
Ooh, I agree with Erika, though. I mean, if this keeps happening,
Well, but what that says to an eager new guy who's going to be better than all these tired old people is, by golly, Nebraska's got a whole empty place there where I could do something, or wherever. So there's always somebody coming up. Remember, in all business, we talk about business wanting less regulation and more freedom, not the big ones, because they can afford it. Their competitors who are maybe smarter and faster can't. So
yeah, sometimes regulation is a feature. Go ahead, Daniel.
It's very intimidating if you're getting into the industry, because much like there's a reason why a lot of mom and pop places struggle in this day and age, because they're up against such major conglomerates. Like the standard has definitely risen, and it's like Lewis said with the coin thing. There's a lot of yin and yang to this about is this better for the consumer? Is this worse for the consumer? And there's positive and negative lights to be with it. I can't help but feel like I relate a bit though right now to the guy who got fired from Six Flags, like Vash was saying, where do you go from here? And it shows like you're going to be up against a bigger challenge. And if you're pessimist with it, it's going to be really hard. If you're an optimist, for better or for worse, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. It's going to be very fascinating to see what happens in the next decade or two. Personally, overall, in my personal opinion with it, I see a lot of negatives where this could go, but I appreciate Lou's optimism, and I really hope that it's leading to a good time for the consumer, because companies, buildings, roller coasters, as we've seen throughout this show, come and go. Let's just hope we're not eventually in a world where everything's owned by only two companies and no one can get a foot in the industry.
There's
Exactly.
an interesting,
That's what I'm afraid of.
Interesting chat from Sean, the artist formerly, et cetera, about how he's from Southern California, and he hasn't had good Mexican food for 7 years living in Oregon. Well, by golly, that's an opportunity for somebody in Oregon to open a really good Mexican restaurant. And I'll tell you a story, Sean. A dear friend of mine who grew up in Salinas and in Southern California went to Princeton in the 70s to go to school. And she called me up one day in tears. I said, "What's wrong? Did somebody die?" She said, "No. I went to the local Mexican restaurant in Princeton and I ordered enchiladas and they served me manicotti with cilantro on top."
Oh gosh.
But the point is, somebody saw an opportunity and now there's a good place. So all of this yin and yang eventually improves the species, even if we have to suffer in the meanwhile. Okay. So don't be too negative about it, folks.
Well, alrighty then. I think that was a super robust discussion right there. I just want to really bring this story and stories like it to the attention to everybody else, because maybe we don't give it the time that I think it really deserves on some of the larger platforms that we have. But I really definitely want to highlight these kind of stories the best we can, because we all love theme parks, no matter how big or how small. I think that was really, really cool.
Yes.
Let's see here to round out tonight here. I think we can stop by no better place than Nolan's channel. Nolan, what do you got going on, good sir?
All right, I'm back from all the trips. So, my goodness, I was editing up the final portion, or one of the final portions. It's not done yet, people. It's not done yet. But of this video about Mario 64 being built with an evil experimental artificial intelligence. It is a mix of documentary, B-movie horror, and comedy. If that intrigues you, please check out my series Lost in the Files on YouTube. It's like the UFOs you used to see on History Channel, but with video game mysteries. More could you ask for? Kumba to be around forever. That's what you could ask for. But besides that, if you like my video, my opinions and my documentary-esque tales, please check out me at Nolan Thunder. Always an honor to be on this show and having a chance to promote it. Thank you, Vash.
Ooh. Absolutely.
I can't wait for that show. It's going to be great.
Thank you, friend. Thank you.
Someday
you can't get rid of a bomb.
This is very true. Actually.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Anyway.
And speaking of everything that does not bomb, Erika from Erika and Ref. Hello there. What do you got going on? I know you've been working on a little bit of let's see. You attended, I believe, a farmer's market, and you were editing that up, if I'm not mistaken, right there in Germany. Go ahead, please tell everybody about it.
I still haven't edited the footage from the Medieval Fest we had out here at Lonsdale Castle. Yeah, and I'm in my Halloween preseason, so I'm in my brainstorming season, trying to figure out what I want to do, supplies I need to get. My DIYs need to start as of next month, which is in a few weeks. Yeah, I have content I could be doing. I just haven't done it. And we're doing a huge overhaul here with tech. We are getting a new router, which should be here tomorrow. And I'm looking to move all of this into an actual office space upstairs in one of the bedrooms where hopefully I can start putting all my content into like one room and do more like Halloween vlogs, like DIYs, since I'm in that season right now. And then whatever else Raph would like to do, he kind of likes to go out and about, try to shoot stuff around here and film stuff, I should say, around here in Germany.
You do a lot of stuff with Lorena too. And
yeah,
by the way, I see Lorena planning watch parties of several films that the genre guys have done, which might be good for people to preview our show to get ready to watch them. One for Big Trouble in Little China, and I forget what the other ones were that I noticed on her schedule.
Yeah, later tonight at 7:30, I'll be on Lorena Creel's Spice Lounge. So I'll be
always
there.
A great show.
Fantastic.
It's a lot of fun.
Love the Spice Lounge. Love the Spice Lounge. That's going to be super, super cool. Make sure you tell Lorena hello there from me to her when you get there. Now, Lou, we just had an incredible show over there at Hello Backlot with Lou and you talking about
we'll
Tom
do it again
Cruise.
this coming Sunday at our usual time. I will not be here for this show next week because I got big doings going on the day before. But usually I'm on the Monday night extravaganza with Pro and of course the genre guys. And we've got wonderful things coming there. So, look around. You'll find me.
Indeed. I think people shall. If you haven't subscribed yet to this channel, go ahead and subscribe. We have Genre Guys content on here. We have Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. And always an amazing show. Like I was saying before, this show particularly really, really good. Talking about wing walking and the history of that with an expert guest that actually came on. definitely check it out, folks. You do not want to miss it.
More than you ever thought you would want to know, but you will want to know about the science, art, and history of wing walking, all in relationship to the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie and more. So it was a great show. It was a great show.
A fantastic show, indeed.
It usually is. When good people get together, and we appreciate our audience, and we tell you the truth. You want to put the question line address up again?
Yes, I do. Yes,
I
do.
Any questions about the wonderful world of show that I might be able to answer without getting too personal, send them here, and I will.
T3P online at yahoo.com is the email. You can always send us your questions right there. We've actually been inundated with some great content. So that is awesome, but we always would love to see your questions. Now, I almost forgot Sam Wolf, Life of a Military Wife, talking about this. Hey, Vash, what's the latest on the Mattel World in Glendale? Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know what's happening with that park. It was supposed to open like 2 years ago.
Glendale, Arizona, for those who wondered.
Yes, Glendale, Arizona.
It's supposed to have He-Man and Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels, Barbie, all kinds of great stuff. We're all really looking forward to it, and yet don't know what is actually going on. Go ahead, Nolan.
Mattel can be a bit trigger happy, though. We saw this with their movie announcements following Barbie. Didn't they announce like 12 movies?
That's a fair point.
Let's
all the movies and all the toys.
Announcements are free. Especially the internet. You don't even have to print them and mail them with a stamp. You just send it out there.
Last time I went over there, it seemed like there was no progress on the Mattel park, which was very, very unfortunate. And I haven't really heard an update since. So as soon as I hear one, I'll let you guys know.
Meanwhile, by the way, my little brother who lives in Texas tells me that Frisco is building like crazy, and that's supposed to open a year from August, but it's probably going to soft a lot sooner.
Yeah. I mean, it's they're going at a pace there. Also,
and
too,
the Universal Halloween Vegas thing is this
August 14th.
Right?
August 14th. That's correct.
And now they're going to build the Top Gun thing in Vegas over at the Stratosphere as an experiential
I have not
thing.
heard that. What?
Yeah, not only with the flight simulators, but also a replica of that bar in the second movie. And other goodies.
Okay, I'm a flight simulator, like flying a fighter jet. Oh,
yeah.
Is it an actual simulator? Like what are I don't know.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to T3PO Live, coming at you live from the Top Gun introduction ceremony.
Oh, wow.
Oh, gosh.
You're just bucking for another company trip. That's all. We know your game.
Is it going to be anything like the flight simulators that our pilots actually do for their flight hours when they're in training?
About that. When Star Tours opened at Disneyland, I was sitting next to the guy that runs the flight simulators at Top Gun in Miramar. And he said, I'm real interested in this. He said, because our simulators are in a 15-degree motion base. This one's 35. So maybe they're better is the answer to that question.
Well, so what I've heard from this experience, and I'm still looking into this because this is actually one of a couple of ventures from Paramount, I do believe, looking to license out their content and bring it to the masses in ways that aren't so studio limited. From what I understand from this experience, you'll actually be going through the Top Gun course as if you're one of the Top Gun pilots, sort of similar to what you see actually in the first movie that you see Tom Cruise go through, and then obviously becomes a instructor at Top Gun. You'll be going through that experience as a student there. So I think that's pretty cool. Folds in very, very nicely. And
is the John Wick thing open yet, or is it about to? That's over there in that area where Universal is.
Yes, I thought that was open already there.
So this idea of these smaller experiential themed entertainments is growing by leaps and bounds.
By leaps and bounds, yes, it is. Also, too, I think here they're also going to have the what is it? The bar as well. This Top-Gun experience right here. Great balls of fire, indeed. That's going to be very, very cool to see. And it's kind of funny that you bring this up, Lou, because I was actually at an air show yesterday.
Yes.
For Memorial Day. That was actually pretty cool right here. Let me see if I can get it on screen. If this is even working.
So much fun.
Can you start in Danger Zone as you play the music?
Oh, yeah. You know it. You gotta play Danger Zone when you're doing the whole thing.
They don't do them here anymore at Ramstein. We had a bad fatal accident back in the 80s, and it was so terrible. It hit the news, and
you have
I
to
don't mean to
remember
get morbid here, but Raf got a tour by one of the security forces guys, took him to an old hangar on the fight line, and they still had caskets piled up because of the body count from the crash.
Wow.
And one of my best friends, her father was stationed here when that happened, and he's got PTSD from the incident and will not come back to Germany at all. He will not come back to Ramstein.
Well, and one of the things
if you look it up on Google,
when we talked with Vash's wing walking expert, one of the points is that especially since they mostly perform at air shows now, other than in a movie, you're pretty low to the ground so the audience can see you, which means if you make a mistake, you haven't got a lot of altitude to recover in.
Exactly. Yeah, and in some instances, sadly, their ejection seats do not eject. And that's when it's
it's some dangerous stuff, especially when you're working with aircraft. In some cases 80, 70, 60 years old. So that's tough. And we talked about Hollywood back with Lou and you, just, when going over like the Boeing Stearman, for example, and how notable that aircraft is. And when you're doing some aerial acrobatics, the engine stalls out. It's like, okay, well, now you have to restart that. And apparently, Tom Cruise actually relays that story. Nolan, you're going to love this show. Tom Cruise actually relays that story about how that happened multiple times and how you need to contend with that, right?
And in the second Maverick, that bit where the plane flies so low it knocks over the guard tower, that's real.
Yes.
I mean, they really did use the force of a plane to knock that down. It wasn't special effects wires or charges or whatever. Yeah. These things are powerful. Anyway, we were winding up and I got off on a tangent. Sorry about that. I do that.
You need to do.
Oh, well, it's quite all right. I actually
wanted to. New fun stuff to do is coming to the future near you. Or near
Indeed. As you can probably see right here in my editor right now, I'm actually going through some of the footage that we actually had from the air show. That's going to be pretty cool. I don't know what venue will actually premiere any of this stuff on, but the Epic Universe for sure. But
Potter in the air show, that's an interesting combination.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that'll be in the UK park.
That's the best part are the old planes they showcase more than like the Thunderbirds or the Blue Angels performing. I like looking at the older planes, and you get tours
that you can actually pay a small fortune to go up in. The bombers from World War II.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yep. Oh, you can do it. Yeah. For a cool $1,000, you can be in a P-51 Mustang.
Well, I used to have a friend who was a bombardier on a B-17 and a navigator, and he was on the famous Schweinfurt raid on the ball bearing plants that was so devastating, and he had some memories, to say the least. But thank God he made it, because he was then my friend. Anyway.
Hey, there's Walt's playing. Look at that. Anyway, yes, go ahead and subscribe here to T3PO for all the news that absolutely should be fun. Hey, and if you haven't, hit that like button, go ahead and hit that like button right now. Share us out if you really do like us, and we will see you all here next time at 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, and Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you every single Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. See you later, guys. We'll send you off to Barry Place 28, who not streaming right now, but you want to go ahead and subscribe to him anyway. Catch you later.
Adios.